Grand Rising, and welcome to this week's show of Behind the Curtain with Ade and Ran. Today we have Torild Boe, who runs courses on menopause empowerment. Grand Rising, Torild, how are you today?
Grand Rising, I am very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well. Thank you. It's a pleasure for you to come on the show. I remember reading about the course you're running, and I thought straight away, we've got to get you on this show, because I think it's a subject that I know very little about, and would like to learn a lot more. I've not really seen much about it out there. Of course, growing up in school, I didn't hear a single thing about it. So to have you on here and share your wisdom about what you do, it's a great opportunity for us all. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I think it's super brilliant that you as men have invited me to be on here, because it is actually such an important topic also for both genders. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I was thinking maybe you can give us a encapsulated version of just a little bit about your background, like what led you to this work, or what you did before doing this.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a 52-year-old Norwegian, and I've lived in London for the last good 30 years of my life. I have a family here, 3 children. I come really from a corporate background, and really from a background where it's male-dominated leadership, etc. So I worked in sales and marketing, events organizing for many years, and then when I had my children, I got 3 boys. I decided to look at different ways of being in control of my own body when I gave birth, etc. So I sort of came upon mindfulness practices, yoga and hypnosis, this kind of work during pregnancies. And then that kind of evoked an interest in me, because I realized that the power of, being in control of your own body and knowing your own body, going through things like this in life, not just childbirth, but then coming on to that later, menopause also. And so I did my, to jump forward a long way, I did my yoga teacher training in 2017. And then this amazing lady, Petra Kovani, she started off menopause yoga teacher training. And so that felt natural to me, because in hindsight, I had gone through something we call perimenopause, but I wasn't aware of it at the time. And so by learning yoga practice, and we can come more into that later on, but by learning these tools and techniques, I realized that this is such an amazing help for feeling like you're empowered at this stage of your life. So now I've taken it sort of a bit further. I'm doing my coaching certification now, and I work with women in corporate so that they can go through perimenopause, menopause, the different stages of menopause, and come out feeling empowered of this stage of their life. Because there's been such a big stigma around it. So that's in short what I'm doing.
Oh, great. And so what are these stages you mentioned? What was the phrase perimenopause, or?
Yeah, perimenopause. So really, we've only talked about the menopause and the postmenopause, the stages after the menopause. Really, the menopause itself is just one day after you haven't, had a period for 1 year. So that's only really the one day. All the years leading up to this can last, and on average, it lasts around 4 to 5 years, but it can take a decade before you are at menopause, having gone through perimenopause. So the perimenopause simply means the stage leading up to the menopause. But this is the stage where often women, this is the stage where the hormonal fluctuations can be really, really erratic. So this may be the stage where a woman starts feeling overwhelmed, anxieties, the night sweats, hot flushes, etc. So ironically, this is also a time that women aren't really prepared. They don't really know a lot a lot of women still don't know what to expect and what's happening and how early it can happen.
So is perimenopause, is that different from what some people call early menopause, or is early menopause still have that stage of perimenopause in it?
So the early menopause can be experienced by women losing their periods at a very young age, and this could be caused by hysterectomy, certain cancers, etc. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to go into the real nitty-gritty of it, but in short, that's what can happen. So early menopause has sometimes happened to women, in their 20s and even younger. But perimenopause, generally speaking, would start from early 40s. And the average age for the actual menopause in the UK is 51. And any time after the menopause is post-menopause. And again, that can last for a very long time until the hormone levels are settled. So we're all different. Every woman is different. This can vary does vary from woman to woman. So that's also a big thing around this. Everybody is different. So the whole point of empowerment is that you as a woman learn what your body needs in terms of hormones, nourishment, etc.
Yeah, and I guess part of the work that you do is also working with the clients to figure out if they need some sort of hormone therapy or things like this. Is there things that they can do to balance things?
Yeah, so my job really is to signpost all that, because I'm not a health professional as such. So I would give them resources, and I would put them in the right direction for, not every woman wants to go on HRT, but it's important that we all have a choice, that we are informed and can make an educated decision about what we want to do. So my role really is to, in terms of corporate, because there's a lot of talk now, of course, around diversity and inclusion and retaining talent. And sadly, often women my age leave their jobs because of the menopause. There's been some big studies in the UK that shows that 1 in 4 women consider leaving their jobs because they feel they can't cope or they're having a really rough time with it. 1 in 10 women actually have left their jobs. So this was a big study that came out about a year ago by the Fawcett Society. And so if you talk about diversity and inclusion and wanting to retain talent, whether it's age or gender, color, etc., this is also, I feel, a really important place to go to look at.
Yeah. Like, what would you say about, there seems to be a feeling in our culture, at least it used to be, maybe it's changing now, but it's like when you hear, especially from the male point of view, when you hear menopause, you just like cover your ears and like, I don't want to hear about it, or it's like the monster, that's the scary monster that's coming to get you, like it's this really I don't know, this feeling in the culture. Is that shifting at all as we come to understand it more and not be so much of I don't know, like it's the boogeyman in the closet sort of thing?
It's a really good question, and I think there is still a huge stigma around the menopause. I mean, I feel there is a lot of talk around it at the moment because I obviously follow loads of people and I'm in this, I'm working with women. But there is still, I'm surprised, there is still a lot of stigma around talking about it. There's a lot of shame attached to it, embarrassment. And this is such sad, it's really sad that this is still going on. But I think what you're doing today is really important. And I feel that because it doesn't just affect 50% of the population, it also affects men, partners, and families and colleagues, etc. So it's a really important conversation to have. And in the UK, there's a lot of work being done by some really, really amazing people campaigning, and there's discussions in Parliament, there's initiatives, and in this country, I think it's probably at the forefront of what's going on compared to other countries. There's also in the UK now talk of menopause policies. A lot of companies are implementing these, which is really, really good. So although there is a stigma, but I choose to be positive because I feel there is a lot more talk of it now than even just 2 or 3 years ago. So it's becoming more and more normalized, and this is the whole point of the work that I'm doing as well, is that we can embrace this stage, because we have a lot to offer at this stage. We're not doomed or over, or even though we're not childbearing anymore.
Because I've worked in primarily female-dominated places in my whole life, and I've never heard it spoken about at the workplace or just in conversations and how it may be affecting people.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And that's, funnily enough, I was just a few months ago, I was at the school where you used to work and had a talk about the menopause, and there is a big need for it. There's a big need of people going through the menopause coming together and just sharing and normalizing conversation, and make, feeling, by talking about and sharing experiences, you feel like you're not alone, and you feel like, hey, this is normal, and there are things we can do in order to feel good, feel better, or live life in a more empowered way, really. So the conversation is opening, but there's still a lot of work to be done, I think, and especially in corporate, where traditionally it's not been, or it hasn't felt okay to talk about it and to be open. And a lot of women I speak to, they have high-profile jobs, but all of a sudden they feel this sense of overwhelm and brain fog, which are some of the symptoms you can experience. And you forget things, and this again makes you, your confidence drops, and so you don't feel like you can do the stuff you used to do just before these changes happen to you. And so if people were more aware, managers, companies, etc., it would make it a lot easier and safer.
Can you walk us through let's say I come in, I'm a woman of, 50 years of age, and I come to you, and I'm in what you called a perimenopause stage, and I'm feeling like I'm not understood by the people in my household, that I talk to about it. It's affecting my work. I'm feeling confused. There's a lot going on, and I'm coming to you for help. Where would we start?
So I would start by offering to be part of my program. I run a program with max, say, 6 women in a group over a certain amount of weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. And we would start by looking at the awareness. So generally speaking, about awareness around the menopause, educating yourself about the menopause, and then I would guide them also to health professionals, etc. But also awareness around your emotions, what's actually happening, and why are you feeling the way you're feeling, and is there anything we can do together to change the mindset around your emotions, or your mindset around this period. So we go through sort of certain modules, so from awareness to the power of language, the mindset, and then more practical information as well. So we pull in guest speakers to learn more about HRT, for example, but also more alternative methods. To learn about hair, what happens to your hair and skin in menopause, and diet. How do we nourish best our body, exercise, etc. And there will be breath work and yoga in there as well. But most of all, having the open circle so that women can share their experiences. So we would do 6 to 8 sessions like this together, but build up so that by the end of it, you would come out feeling more in control, more empowered, and then welcome this next stage of your life.
I like what you wrote about in your bio about the second spring.
Yes, yeah.
Can you go through that terminology, please?
Yes, I think that's so lovely that you mentioned that. So I learned this myself from my menopause yoga teacher, that in China, they don't, as far as I understand, have a word for menopause. They call it the second spring. And I think that's a really beautiful analogy for how this stage can be and maybe should be, because ironically, you're always told when you come to your 40s, that's the stage in life as a woman where you really feel confident and in control of life, and you take on life in a different manner. And then all of a sudden this stage hits women and they're not prepared. And so a lot of things happen at this stage with women. For example, if you have children, this may be when you have teenage children with their own hormonal changes, which can be a challenge. And it's also often when you may feel depressed. You may go to your doctor and you think you need medicine for depression, but actually it's due to the hormonal changes in your body, and it's because of the menopause. So there's a lot of misinformation and misguiding, I think, and as a result.
No, we lost you.
Of all these issues. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back now. You froze for a little while. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that this stage is also a stage where families break up, where things get difficult, and we're not prepared and informed. And had there been more information and education beforehand, it would be so much better. And that's luckily changing now. It's about slowly.
And can you talk a little bit about how you work with people that may have the hormonal, I don't know if it's termed imbalance. I don't know, is that the right terminology? When they're going through menopause, what can one do to be with that? I mean, you did mention bring in awareness around the emotions and things of that nature, and diet as well, and meditation. I think you mentioned on your website journaling and things of that nature. But besides that, is there any other tools that you can offer someone that is just maybe one moment they're just crying and they don't know why they're crying, and they're feeling overwhelmed, and I think I'm maybe, do you find that sometimes people come when they're in that state, do they ever carry some guilt surrounding that, like, I shouldn't be this way, why am I like this, it's like my I'm making things difficult for my family or what have you?
Yeah, it's a really good point, I think. And I think that what I pull into, what I offer in my work and my programs is things that I know have worked for myself. So, for example, say you have a hot flushes, say you have a hot flush at work or whatever, that can feel really, really deliberating for you, and you can really feel like, oh God, not now, just before the meeting or presentation or whatever. And so by doing certain breath practices, for example, you can help to regulate, as we know, the nervous system. Because if you go into hot flush and really fight it, it's only going to get worse. So by heightened state of anxiety, the hot flush is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. So it's like any pain, I guess. If you fight it, if you like this, it won't be better. So learning relaxation techniques, breathing practices, some yoga practices as well, and allowing these hot flushes to, be like a wave is so much better than trying to fight it. And I think generally that's also the work that we do a lot, is not to fight it, but actually embrace it. But in order to embrace something, you need to have certain tools and techniques, I think. And it's about being consistent as well. So I see that myself with my own daily sort of practices, whether it's meditation, journaling, breath work. Not saying that it happens every single day, but I try to be consistent with it. And I know that when I do that, when I am consistent, little and often, it's so helpful. It's really very powerful, I find.
Yeah.
Doctors, from the feedback that you've got from the women you've spoken to, are doctors compassionate when women go to them and speak about what's happening to them?
Really relevant question. And again, I think things are changing, and there's some really amazing doctors out there who are well informed. But as far as I understand, without this being my background, generally female health in training as a doctor hasn't traditionally been high on the agenda. That is luckily changing, and I think there's something that was passed recently whereby this is going to be more in this country. There's going to be more emphasis on female health. Finally, there's some real amazing women doctors out there, and male as well, obviously. But some people, one of them, Dr. Louise Newson, who's really fighting for every surgery in the UK to have menopause experts. So she's done a training program for that to happen. So again, things are really changing to the positive. However, I think that a lot of women still feel that when they go to see their GP, they don't really get always the help that they need. They might be put in the wrong direction without them even having asked them about symptoms that could easily be linked to perimenopause, menopause. So it's true. It's something that's changing, and I don't know enough about which ones are or not. But there's some really good doctors out there. I know that for sure. So it's important also that women, and I always encourage that women who know a doctor, a local GP, who is very well informed and interested in female health, it's really important that they share that with their friends. There's some really good online resources as well that women can look at. There's a few apps now that are very good and informative. And one of the things that I would sort of say to women before they go and see their GP or their doctor is to keep track of symptoms or signs and do that over a period so that you come prepared. Because, I don't know what it's like in America, but here you don't have a lot of time with your GP when you book a traditional appointment, so to speak. So it's good if you come prepared and you know yourself what's going on, because you ultimately know your body the best. So
yeah. And where did this when I hear about all of the symptoms and everything that women go through when they go through menopause, I'm looking for the silver lining in all of this. What would you say would be the benefits from menopause, or the positive parts that might come out of this?
Well, I feel it's a stage in life where you have, you have lived a long time. You have some amazing experiences, both good and bad, I'm sure. You have a lot to share with others around you. There's a lot of wisdom in age, I believe. And so So maybe this is also an opportunity for you to really live your own purpose and find out why, why am I meant to be here? What can I share, really? Whatever, not saying that everyone should change their jobs or do something drastic, but maybe this is an opportunity to really figure out what it is that you want. Because it may be a time when the kids, like we talked about earlier, have moved out if you have kids, and it's a natural sort of change and opportunity to make some changes, I think.
Yeah. And does going through menopause is one of the results learning more about yourself? Would you say it's a doorway to that, to discovering things about yourself that you didn't know? Like maybe some emotions that were kind of repressed, that this forces these things to come up.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely a good time to, if one hasn't before, it's definitely a good time to do that. But it can be, before you get to that stage, it can be very confusing, feeling like you're almost like a teenager again, where you have no control of your anger or emotions. So it can be really, really confusing. So first of all, you need to know what it is that you're going through and what to expect. And but then, yes, I think that's a great time to get to learn to know yourself on a deeper level, if you like. Yeah,
it's great that you offer these as part of the program, these support groups, because when someone's coming to you with menopause and feeling alone, feeling unique, and hearing other women who have gone through it or are going through it talk about similar experiences, makes you feel that you're not alone.
Yeah, it kind of normalizes it, right?
Yeah.
And then between the sessions that we do, I also do different things for corporate. I host workshops and talks, and we'll be working more one-to-one with women as well. But between these group sessions, we also have a group together on Marco Polo, which is an app where you can record messages and we feed back to each other. So there's support between the sessions as well, because often after the session, that's the time when you go away and you may encounter actually, really what it is that's bothering you, or some positive things. And we share things that we find inspirational and helpful, etc. So those Marco Polo app, the groups, are really important too.
Great. And you mentioned that you bring this program into the corporate world. How receptive has the corporate world been to the work that you do?
So I'm currently working with women in the maritime industries, which is the background that I came from. And in the UK, again, I think we are at the forefront here, really, because there's a big focus on the menopause as part of diversity inclusion and looking at retaining the talent, as mentioned before. So here it is coming more and more. This is fairly new to me as well. I started about 6-7 months ago. In other countries, like my home country, Norway, I think there isn't yet so much talk about it, but I would like to be part of opening up the conversation there, because it's not like it's not happening there either. But it's not talked about so much yet, but it is starting again. It's starting to happen, and there's been some things in the media over the last week which I think is going to highlight the conversation around the menopause more as well, and female health. So I'm glad to be part of this, and I feel it's really important to support women in the corporate world, in the workplace. There's a lot of companies here who already have a menopause policy in place, and they do some really great initiatives. Like they have a menopause mentor champion network. They have menopause cafes where women can go and talk to others. So, but it's not the majority at all. So there's a lot of work still to be done.
Do you think we need to, especially in the West, restructure how workplace happens, what happens in work, and to look at it in different ways. So women who are going through the menopause can have a space where they can be free, they can talk about it, they can be open about it. Because it seems that at the moment, the structures that are in place in regards to work time, work placement are not really conducive to living their lives fully.
Yeah, such another good question. And I think that these things are being put in place in some companies, and these would form part of a menopause policy where you have the opportunity to have a room where you can go and talk to other people, a safe space. You have maybe a desk fan if you're experiencing hot flushes. There's many different things you can put in place in the workspace. You would have, for example, some companies are excellent in offering working from home more and more, and obviously this has changed since the pandemic as well. So that's become more, more normal than it used to be. So more flexibility around working hours, because if you haven't slept all night because of night sweats or whatever you may experience, it's very hard having to get up your normal time and then function the way you used to do. So having flexibility around these things in work is really important, I feel, and that is coming more helped by the pandemic. Yeah.
I watched a movie a while ago, and I told Adi about it, called I, Daniel Blake. And in the movie, there was one scene, and it's not the menopause, but it's a young woman, and she was didn't have much money, and she had to choose between buying sanitary products or food for her children. And it seems to me that so much of these things are not talked about. We don't know about it, what women are going through, what's going on in their bodies, in their minds, in their lives. And still now, 2022, we're talking about normalizing it, which is basically just living in a human body. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. No, exactly. Isn't it shocking? Isn't it shocking that it's taken until today to work on getting rid of the stigma around this? I totally agree, and it really is quite shocking. And I find it even in Northern European countries, it's kind of, there is shame around it. You shouldn't really talk about it, because I don't know why. Maybe it is because then you have reached a stage in some Northern European countries where women have a lot more rights, and finally they are in the boardroom, etc. So actually admitting menopause may be feeling like you're admitting failure. I don't know. To me, it's really, really strange. And I think the more we can talk about this, normalizing it, getting rid of the stigma, the better. Because for our future generations as well, when I speak to younger girls, younger women, they think it's really ridiculous that it's not talked about more. I've had a few conversations with 20-year-olds who are, also very surprised. Why didn't we learn about this at school? Why is it not part of the sex education? It is, again, in this country, that's coming. They have agreed to have it now, I think, going forward in secondary school sex education curriculum, which again is very positive. But why didn't that happen before? Beyond.
Yeah, because I've been in a few in school when they did the sex education classes, and I never heard it mentioned once.
No.
And in the environment I've been in, I've never heard it spoken about it at all. And it's really sad if people are going through something and they're uncomfortable with something which affects 50% of the world's population.
Absolutely, and it affects. Let's be honest as well. It does affect partners and families. I myself have talked to my boys about the menopause, and we talk about hormone changes, because that's also where they will or have been at. So and it's important for me to feel that they are aware. And if I have a sudden outburst, it happens less now than it used to be, but it did happen. Then it's good for me that they can support me and know that our mum's just, she's having a moment, she'll be fine, that kind of thing. And so that's really important, that a woman feels supported as well by her partner, and not feeling like, oh, there's something wrong with me, and I'm at fault, or so. Yeah.
Do you think it's some way in regards to, in our society, especially in the West again, how we fetishize youth?
Yeah, absolutely.
Growing older is seen to be something that you have to be afraid of. In many other cultures, it's seen as a time of wisdom and growth and knowledge and learning and passing on what you've learned to the next generation. But here it seems to be, especially the images that we see in TV and in magazines and so on, it seems to be denial of who I am. I am this body, I am this age. Let's embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely that as well. There's a huge amount of pressure on women these days to look a certain way, to behave in certain ways still, and this image of youth that is so held up there in a way that you would have hoped had changed again by 2022. But I sometimes feel like we're going backwards. And there's many more opportunities as well now to fix things that you may not like about yourself from the outside. And but this is confused, I think, with the whole idea of women's health, because women's health has nothing really to do with the way that we look or the fact that we can have less wrinkles, etc. I'm not saying that we shouldn't take care of ourselves and enhance our self in whatever way we want to do, but ultimately it comes from within, doesn't it? And how you feel. And I think if at the age of 40 plus you can't feel connected with yourself and comfortable in your own skin, it's sad, really, isn't it? So the change has to come from yourself, from within, and so much so the better then if we can have these open conversations around, for example, the menopause, and normalize it and be proud, like you say. Other cultures call it second spring and have a positive language around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that this affects not only women but partners. And do you work with families and partners as well?
I haven't done that yet, but I've had feedback that they would like to have sessions for partners as well, informative sessions. So I'm interested in doing that, definitely. But so far, it's been enough for me to start with this, to actually work with the women. But there are people out there also doing that, and I think again in corporate, it's really important also to do that work, because the partners that we do hear from who have been through some work and been informed and educated, of course it's going to make it easier for them as well to be a good partner, to be supportive. And
and even the workplace partners, the males at the workplace, you were talking about bringing awareness around the emotions. So why do some males, when they hear it, they may, I don't want to, hear it, like, what inside of us are we not seeing? And how is that also limiting who we are as well? Because it seems like we're all connected in some way, so if I'm resisting feeling whatever emotion comes up, because I hear a woman at the workplace say, okay, she's having hot flashes or she's going through, this or that. What is it inside of me that I'm not looking at? So I think that's an important part of the piece as well. Would you?
Yeah, definitely. But I think that before the woman herself can feel comfortable talking about it, what's happening to her, it's going to be difficult for the partner also to understand. So, so it's a both way conversation, definitely, but really important, both of them. Yeah.
What is happening? I think I was thinking of in a spiritual aspect in regards to the menopause, and again in reference to the second spring. Are there openings that they didn't realize, or ways of being that they're discovering while going through the menopause?
I feel definitely that's the case. I maybe was on that journey a little bit anyways. But I feel that women or people going through the menopause this stage, there's a bigger sense of sort of quietness, I guess. And I think we feel that we need more space, more time to ourselves, and maybe need to. This is the stage to calm it down a bit, whether it's sitting with yourself and being comfortable with your emotions and riding through and finding ways of dealing with it. And also this is probably the stage where you have experienced both pain and sorrow and happiness, and realize perhaps that you do have a choice to how you embrace this period. We all have a choice, right? We've seen examples of that in life always. Some people who've been through the most painful things in life can still make the choice eventually that they want to make the most of life. And I think for a lot of women, this is a time where you have the opportunity to do that and to grow. And yeah.
Eddie and I have been talking a lot about, I think I call him a doctor called Gabor Mate, and he talks about what you go through in your childhood can affect things that happen in your body in regards to illnesses and ways of being. Do some of these come up when you're going through the menopause, remembrances of what you went through, traumatic experiences? And does the menopause heighten those feelings or the memories?
I'm not sure if I don't know. I think it depends how self-aware you are as well, I guess, and how much work you have done around that. There's a lot of I like the inner child work. I've done that, and so that just depends. I think what sort of journey you are on. The fact of the matter is that the drop in estrogen levels will impact the way that your emotions operate. So that's why we get these feelings of anxiety, overwhelm, brain fog, feeling maybe sadness and out of control, etc. So it does have an impact definitely on your emotional state. But yeah, perhaps some women may feel this. I haven't heard so much that's kind of a link directly, but yeah. I would say perhaps I felt more like I was back in my teenage years at times.
Did you have someone to speak to immediately, or did you have to go and seek somebody?
So I didn't know that I was going through the perimenopause, and this is also one of the reasons why I'm passionate about doing this work, because I had no idea what was going on with me. And this also happened to be the time where I was going through a divorce with 3 young children. And so I think that happens to a few women, that it may also be the time, early 40s, mid 40s, where the breakup of the family is a fact. Had I known, I think it would have been such a relief to know that, Although a divorce is painful anyway, I felt like some of the things that happened to me were kind of out of control, and I lost control, and some things that would normally not be such a big deal became a huge thing all of a sudden. So it wasn't really until I had night sweats that it clicked to me that, okay, this must be menopause, because that's the only thing we traditionally have learned, is sort of hot flushes and moods, angry woman and night sweats. Those things are the things that we've always heard about, and we associate with the menopause. I didn't know that joint pain, tinnitus, all these different things can also be linked to the drop in estrogen levels. So, forgot what the question was now. But I think that's my kind of passion with this, is that a lot of women don't know. That's the problem. They have no idea what's happening to them.
It's interesting what you said at the beginning, that it's two men speaking about, I've asked you to come onto the show. Why did you say that? What's the importance of that?
I think it's brilliant that you two show interest, and I think it's quite representative of what's going on at the moment with the conversation opening. I think men are curious and they want to know, they want to learn. I see that a lot, but I just appreciate that you wanted to have this as your topic on the podcast. It's not like it should be amazing, or it should be, oh wow, fantastic, two men invited me to do it, and that will change, but I do appreciate it still. Yeah,
because one of the reasons was, so I saw your course and I thought, but what do I know? And I realized I didn't know anything really. And I think it's really important. I mean, so just in regards to the human family and being in relationship to other people and trying to understand what's going on in each other's lives. And so much it seems that what has been hidden, if we're going to live together, needs to be expressed, to take the lid off all of these unspoken subjects and to reveal them, to talk about them, because I think it's healthy for all of us.
Absolutely. And can you imagine if you're a woman at...
No, we lost you. Are you there? You froze.
Work, who is here?
Okay, yeah. You're back now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh dear, this has never happened before. This is sod slow. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I'll edit it. So, you were saying, can you imagine? And then you froze.
Yeah, I'm just saying, can you imagine if you're a female leader in a high position at work? It doesn't have to be that, but just for the sake of the example, and you're about to go in and hold a presentation at work, and then you're overcome with a brain fog. You can't remember all the things you used to remember before, and then the hot flushes. And I think if this was about a man, the conversation would have been different, and it would have happened a long time ago. Do you know what I mean? Would you agree?
Yes. It probably would be, excuse me, I'm going through the menopause. Hold on a second,
Yeah. All right, dude.
Yeah, all right, guys, yeah. Give me a few seconds, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and it seems, like you said, just to normalize, and, it's everyday subjects, it's living life, it's who we are. And so what is more important to talk about, really, what's going through. And also, it's just to imagine if you're in a relationship with somebody and you don't know while they're feeling what they're feeling, so that can bring a real discommunication between couples.
Absolutely, yes. And if she does, exactly right. If she doesn't know why she is feeling the way she's feeling, then you start questioning yourself, the relationship, and it brings on a whole different level of complication. So again, information is paramount to feeling, as we know, empowered and to be able to embrace it. We need to know, obviously.
Yeah. And I think that, going back to the example of the business meeting example, that the woman is going into the meeting feeling brain fog and having hot flashes, but still has to go and somehow get through the meeting, and feeling that she can't say, hey, can we pause, and maybe do this another time, or whatever she may need at that moment. Feeling that she can't even express that because people aren't going to be open to that. Now, if the situation if it was a male, you were saying, can you imagine that happening? And Ron said, yeah, the guy would say, I'm going through menopause, and they take a break. I get that, but I also think that probably wouldn't come up, might not, because in the culture, men are very much accustomed to repressing the emotions, not talking about how they're feeling. And I think one of the maybe differences that there is about males and females is that we can learn from each other. So it could be a space where we are learning to express, to feel our emotions, to let them come out. So open into hearing the discussion about menopause is a new way for males to a new way of thinking, a new way of opening to the emotions and feeling what's there. So I think there is a difference there. And I think there's something that we can learn from that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think that's very true. And it's a good time to do that. I think when you talk about women also have kind of, our mothers were more, had the attitude that, we just get on with it. We just got to get on with it. And there's this stoicism around, or has been around, just cope with it, or and that's kind of what we've learned from our own, not saying mine, but a lot of women have learned from their own mothers. And it's different now, though, because we work longer, we live longer, we travel more, the world is changed, and we want to be maybe part of it more. The whole thing has changed, so the conversation needs to change and everything with it. So but yeah, I think you're right, and I think it is a good opportunity to bring men in and get to know each other better on a deeper level, if by opening up the conversation.
What's a way that men can support their partners, or other women can support their partners who are going through the menopause?
I think if it is around the age where your partner would be hitting perimenopause, menopause, then I think take initiative to learn about it, to read up on it, what to expect, and have that conversation with your partner. I think in terms of anxieties, overwhelm, etc., it's important to, obviously there can be other reasons also, but often it could be linked to the drop in estrogen levels. So having that talk and encouraging your partner to seek help and see whether it's the GP or other therapists that you may be interested in, but seek help and find out about it and what could help you in nourishing, whether it's through HRT or food, supplements or whatever, but actively do something to nourish yourself and try to top up or replace those hormone levels. And also give your partner space, I think, because it's not necessarily always the fact that it needs to be talked about. Perhaps that's the last thing the person wants to do in that moment, but allow the person to have that outburst or those feelings, and you know, making them feel that it's okay, it's normal, it's part of this.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Just bringing that awareness as to, you know, where it's coming from, and creating some space for that, you know, is an act of compassion, and without judging it or, you know, turning it into something else. I think that's really important too.
Yeah, and actually also without necessarily having to name it. Yeah, accepting it in silence can be quite nice too sometimes.
Yeah.
What in education, what changes would you like to see in regards to talking about or covering the menopause?
I think no, I'm not. You have been in sex education classes. I haven't, so I'm not, so, because my boys haven't shared so much around what they've learned. It's been encouraged, but it doesn't always happen. So I think that basic facts, what actually happens in a body during the stage, what does happen, and also what you can expect from people around you, whether it's your mum or aunt or a friend or whatever, what sort of changes you may accept, and also how they are quite similar to some of the teenage things that you yourself would go through. And maybe, and how you can respond to it. I know that won't be easy, and I'm not a child psychologist, or but also how you can work with it with your mum or auntie or whatever it is. Yeah, it doesn't have to be very complicated, but facts and expectations, I guess, would be good.
Yeah. And I think if we hear it talked about more, I mean, this has been sort of the theme of this podcast, that it needs to be talked and normalized. Because I remember conversations, you know, with my mom, and she would mention menopause to us, and we'd kind of just have deaf ears. And just like, you know, I'm sorry to say, you know, that was my experience when I was younger. It was, oh, that's just mom talk, or, you know, I don't want to hear about that. And now when I told her about this podcast, she was really excited. She was like, I got to listen. Yeah, the few, you know, I told a few friends of mine, I told women, they were very, very excited about this podcast.
Right. I hope it's brought some useful information to some.
It has, to me, for me. So it, you know, because I feel more like Ron. I didn't know much about it at all. You know, the little things I hear now and then, but I feel like I'm learning so much more about it, and feel so much more open and understanding to this subject.
Right.
Yeah, because in preparation for the show, I spoke to a few friends, and it was really interesting that, you know, it opened up, and it just became just a conversation after 20 or 30 seconds. And we're just talking about it, and it was just, you know, okay, really. And I found that very interesting. And also, I think a great point was that I got to know them better as people.
Yes, and they would really appreciate you asking. you often find that when one person starts that conversation, oh wow, you can sit a whole evening. They can't stop talking. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there anything? We're at the hour mark. I just wanted to know if there's anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about.
No, I feel we've covered quite a lot. So I've really enjoyed this, and I really enjoyed, talking to both of you. I feel that it's just positive that the conversation is out there, and that we eventually will feel it's totally normal to say the word menopause without feeling any shame, stigma, or embarrassment at all. And hopefully it will be sooner rather than later in every part of the world, really. So and just that we as women this age can grab that opportunity, getting to know each other better, what we want in life, because ultimately this is a great opportunity to do so, I think.
Torild, there's one question before we go, is how does it feel for you when women maybe open up to you for the first time and expressed their stories, their fears? How does it feel to you?
I think it can be really humbling. I had a talk a few weeks ago where one particular woman, it was the first time she allowed herself to share her experiences, and she had quite a senior job in an industry, and she was that woman who goes in to hold those presentations and has done it all her life, but she felt like she's totally lost her confidence, and it affects everything, and she broke down in tears. And I've had a few of those experiences, and when I see that, I really feel like, okay, I feel like I'm on the right track. I feel like I can do stuff here to help women, and I want to do that more and more, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something valid, something good, which is probably what I always wanted to do. And I feel the same sometimes when I taught yoga. I love to see that feeling, because I know myself how that can really help during trickier times. So I like the feeling of feeling like I contribute to something positive, I guess. Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's amazing sometimes, that I guess we're given sometimes a gift from people, and the gift is that they're sharing a story and allowing us to listen. And this gift can happen in so many forms, and it's really extraordinary to be the receiver of this gift. Where maybe for the first time they feel that they are being listened to. And I think there's so many aspects of what we go through in life to actually feel that you're listened to is such a massive awakening.
Yeah, I agree.
So where could people find you if they wanted to, if they're interested in working with you?
Yes, thank you for reminding me to say that. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Torild Boe. I think it may even be Torild Boe Stokes, but also I have work in progress website, which is torildboe.com. And on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. But yeah, I'd love to, for anyone who would like to work with me, I'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to reach out.
Oh, great. And can you send us those links, and I'll post them to this Facebook, the description of this Facebook video and the YouTube. I'll put it in the body of the YouTube video.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Thank you. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
So it was a pleasure meeting you and talking to you today. I feel like I'm looking at this subject in a totally different way, and I've learned so much, and I appreciate you for that.
Thank you so much, Ade and Ron. I'm really happy to hear that. That was my hope for the talk. So thank you so much, and yeah, I appreciate being invited.
Thank you.
Thank you, Torild. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Watch part 2 of our conversation with Torild Boe, where she will answer questions that we'll put to her from our viewers.